Hello and welcome back to the Leinster Listen. I'm your host Mick Lennan and this is episode 62, the preview of Ireland versus Japan in the Nations Championship. The topics we'll discuss today are the Nations Championship game predictions, the details of our game, team lineups, score and man match prediction, and a discussion point on what rugby union should steal from the league. Alright folks, if you were watching Super Saturday, you are definitely just as excited as I am for the next Super Saturday coming up. And let me tell you, it is going to be absolutely crazy coming up into this one. Some really interesting games in the lineup here. And we'll go through them. So first and foremost, at 6:10am now, fair play if you're getting up that early on a Saturday, especially if you're out for a few on the Friday. You might not make that one. But it is the All Blacks versus Italy, and it is at 6:10am. The game's being played in Wellington, and let me tell you, I do think the All Blacks will win that one. Italy, obviously, a bit of show of force there against Japan, kept them very close up until half-time, and it just kind of fell flat, and I think you can't really do that against the All Blacks. They might hold firm again, maybe in the first quarter. I just can't see them holding on. New Zealand looking very, very hot there against a much changed French team, but still very good on the ball. Next up then at 8:40am, you have the Wallabies versus France, and this one is probably going to be the highlight of the weekend. It's just going to be one of those crazy games again. I do think, even though it is, as I said, a much changed French team, the likes of Dupont not even travelling for the training, which is incredibly crazy, but I do think France will come out on top. They just look so good at the moment, and are obviously benefiting off a very, very successful season across the board for France. Next up then, the main event, lads, you have Japan versus Ireland, and that is at 11:10am, so a repeat of the time there for us. Again, thank God. And that is in Newcastle. Not Newcastle close to us, the Newcastle further away. But look, spoiler alert there, I do think Ireland are going to come out on top of that. Next up, you have Fiji versus England. And, given the absolute annihilation that England were handed last week, I do think they'll want to come out and show force against Fiji. But in saying that, that is in Liverpool. So, as you know, all the Fijian games are going to be played not in the Southern Hemisphere. So that one is going to be an interesting one. I do think England are going to come out on top. They had a good bit of grit there, and there was talks there that they were saying they had South Africa on the ropes for about 60 minutes. I don't really agree with that blanket statement, but I do think they're going to come out on top of Fiji there. I'd say the bookies have the same. Next up, you have a very interesting game coming up, and it's South Africa versus Scotland, and that is at 4:40pm in Pretoria. That one's a strange one. I don't know. Scotland showed a lot of class, a very young team, mind you, and a lot of changes to that team against Argentina. So I do think they'll put it up to the South Africans, but realistically, lads, that South African game against England, my God, the Boks are just electric. So I do think South Africa will come out on top of that one as well. And then last but not least, you have Argentina versus Wales, and this one could go either way. It's played at 8:10pm, and it's in San Juan. And I do think Wales might just get it. It'll be the first time in a long time they've gone 3 for 3 in a row. Last week obviously being the first time in a long time that they got 2 wins back to back. So I think that little bit of extra help, a little bit of energy, a little bit of enthusiasm is going to actually bring them over the line there against Argentina, who just really fell flat against Scotland last week. So yeah, there you have it. I think it's going to be the All Blacks, France, Ireland, England, the Boks, and Wales. And I'm actually, do you know what? I should really just check how much that's going to be if you just put that on as a big accumulator, just in the outright. Maybe I'll introduce that at the end. I'll let you know. But look, without further ado, let's go into the details of our game. As I said, kickoff is at 11:10am on Saturday. That would be 8:10pm local time in Newcastle. The weather there is partly cloudy, 8 to 18 degrees Celsius, so a good variance of the temperature there. But it is a mild Hunter Valley winter evening, so expect some light winds and dry conditions as well. And I suppose that's if you're lucky enough to be over there to be watching it. The venue is the McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle, and it is the first neutral test in Australia since 2021. So an interesting one there. Japan's home fixture played in New South Wales. The referee there is Andrea Piardi, and if you remember Andrea Piardi, you definitely will, because he was the one that refereed the 2 grand finals of the URC, the Italian referee, and I actually quite like him. He's very straight run. He's like a ruler. It's the same TMO as the URC divider as well, Matteo Liparini. And yeah, look, Ben O'Keefe there is the AR as well, and Moran Ferreira. So yeah, look, I do think he's a very good referee. I'm very excited for it. And yeah, he lets the game flow. And that's exactly what you want. You know, it's rugby at the end of the day. You don't want a whole load of stopping and starting and controversial calls. So looking forward to Andrea Piardi refereeing that game. Where you can watch it, well, in Ireland, thank God, it is on the domestic channels, and thanks to Virgin Media One for that. You can also find it on Virgin Media Play as well if you don't have the natural telly. I suppose you can have it on the phone. So elsewhere, I suppose if you're over in Australia, fair play to you. So, but yeah, I'll be very jealous. Anyway, without further ado, the lineups. Right, so just to get started, normally just kick straight into the lineups here, but I do need to note that there is 9 changes from the team that played Australia. Farrell rotating an awful lot of players there, with one eye kind of on New Zealand at Eden Park next week. And there's also a series of debutants there, so 4 debutants coming onto that game, one being Sean Jansen, who is starting at number 8. So absolutely delighted for these lads to get a run out. And let's just get through the actual names here. So into the back line there, we have number 15, Jamie Osborne, number 14, Jimmy O'Brien, number 13, Robbie Henshaw, number 12, Stuart McCluskey, number 11, Jacob Stockdale, number 10, Kieran Frawley, and number 9, Craig Casey. Over to the forwards area, number 1, Tom O'Toole, number 2, Ronan Kelleher, number 3, Thomas Clarkson, number 4, and our captain, Tadhg Beirne, number 5, James Ryan, number 6, Jack Conan, number 7, Nick Timoney, and last but not least, number 8, Sean Jansen. Onto the bench area, number 16, Tom Stewart, number 17, Billy Bohan, number 18, Sam Illo, number 19, Cormac Ichiguchu, number 20, Bryn Ward, number 21, Nathan Doak, 22, Harry Byrne, and number 23, the big man himself, Bundy Aki. But yeah, I suppose who's in and who's out from that? Well, a huge level of people there being rested. Obviously, Hugo Keenan being one of the main ones there. Sam Prendergast, Gibson Park, Dan Sheehan, Ty Furlong, Gary Ringrose, Josh Van der Fleer, Joe McCarthy, and Keane Prendergast. So a huge shift, as I said, from that game that we played against Australia. I don't think it's going to be an insult to Japan. I think they're obviously going to want to rest an awful lot of players coming up for the All Blacks. But I suppose more notably who's in there, and Osborne obviously the full back, interesting one there. He's played it a few times throughout the Leinster season as well, so nothing new there for him. Stockdale is back on the wing, and say he'd be delighted to get back on an international wing as well, considering the Six Nations probably didn't go exactly his way. Henshaw at 13 there as well, very interesting. Mostly here Frawley at 10, so finally Frawley gets a little bit of a chance to showcase his skills at the international level again, which I think he really has been just disrespected for. And yeah, I'm hoping he has a really good game. It's going to throw the 10 shirt argument as if it hasn't been thrown up in the air enough, but it will throw that up in the air a small bit if he has a fantastic game there. Casey at 9 there as well. Gibson Park obviously having to take a breather, and I would have talked about Nathan Doak there maybe being a potential 10 player, but he is in there as the replacement scrum half. And yeah, I suppose Kelleher hooker as well. He's played a fantastic season there for Leinster as the backup hooker. Whenever he's come on or even started, he's played a very decent game. Dan Sheehan maybe had a little bit of a hard time against Australia with the line out, so he's going to want to make sure he gets them nailed down. Clarkson at tie head as well, and Byrne as lock, and the captain obviously. So I suppose a couple of injuries there. Rob Balakoon obviously pulled his hamstring. He missed right before the off against the Wallabies, so that was very unfortunate for him. He's really plagued with injuries, and he's such a good player, so I'm actually raging that he isn't going to be on that. Hopefully it's not too bad of a hamstring injury, but it could be probably the end of the test series for him. And then Jeremy Lockman, he had a concussion from earlier this week, so he is out of the squad now. He probably will be available, considering the concussion rules, maybe next week against New Zealand. But yeah, here's hoping. But yeah, let's get into those debutants. I suppose, look, Sean Jansen there starting as well. Huge for debutant to start on the first team. But look, you have Billy Bohan there, Sam Illo and Bryn Ward on the bench. So 3 Connacht men and 1 Ulster back row. I'm half raging that Bryn Ward's brother, I think, is a Sam. I'm raging that he isn't playing alongside him for the first game. That would be a fantastic double debutant for the brothers there. But look, nevertheless, fantastic that we're relying on these new debutants. We really do need to bring them on because the World Cup is just around the corner, lads, and we want to make sure we have a very good team. Moving over there to the Japan lineup, so just one change obviously from the win over Italy. They're really backing that team, and rightly so. They did a very good win, 27-10. So the only one there is Taira Main replaces Kipi Ishida on the left wing. So I suppose without further, there actually is one return there, and a very unexpected one. One slight change, but he won't be playing, and it's Eddie Jones. Yeah, Eddie Jones has returned from his 4-match Japanese Rugby Federation Union suspension. So he'll actually be back in the coaching box this time, rather than abusing match officials at an under-23 tour. So a small little change there for that. I'm sure the Japanese people will love to see him actually coaching the team, not from afar. But anyway, let's get into these numbers. So in the backs there, number 15, I'm going to butcher these, my God. Jesus Christ. Number 15, Takura Matsunaga. Number 14, Kazuma Ueda. Number 13, Dylan Riley. 12, Yuya Hirose. 11, Taira Main. 11, Ryunosuke Ito. Number 9, Naoto Saito. Into the forwards pack there is number 1, Takato Okabe. Number 2, Mamoru Harada. Number 3, Shuhei Takuchi. Number 4, Harry Hawkins. Number 5, and their captain, Warner Darns. Number 6, Ben Gunter. Number 7, Kanji Shimokawa. Number 8, Jack Cornelson. Into the replacements there, number 16, Hayata Era. Number 17, Sojiro Otsuka. Number 18, Kaijiro Tamafusa. Number 19, Michael Stolberg. Number 20, Michael Leitch. Number 21, Tianan Cosley. Number 22, Itsuki Kamimura. And number 23, Sam Green. I am so sorry. Japan is built on respect, and I did not learn your names before this, so please don't hate me. Look, do you know what? I'll try them again, but I'll just talk about the 5 biggest names, the ones you might know there. Michael Leitch, obviously, I picked that. I didn't pick that specifically because I could pronounce it, but no. He plays for Toshiba Brave Lupus Tokyo. Fantastic player there as well. Ryunosuke Ito, the Meiji University, very young, mind you, very young, one to watch. I'll talk about that in a second. Naoto Saito, he plays for Tokyo Sungaliot. Warner Darns there, Toshiba Brave Lupus Tokyo as well. They have a huge team. And Dylan Riley there, who's in the Saitama Wild Knights. Bench splits there are 5-3 for both of them. And I suppose who to watch. And you know what? This time I normally start with the Irish team, but I'm going to start with the Japanese because I just want to talk about Ryunosuke Ito. And let me tell you that he is going to be fantastic. He's a 21-year-old Meiji University student, and he retained that 10 shirt after his absolutely outstanding debut against Italy there last week. It's only his second ever professional game. And I know obviously it's a test match, so it's fantastic for him. But he scored 13 points and ran the show there. Gonzalo Quesada called him a player of the future. So, look, definitely agree with that. Jones is there as well. Eddie Jones said he's going to have his ups and downs, but we've got a team that's going to support him. Look, any 21-year-old is able to step up to the mark there at 10, play an absolute blinder against Italy, is one to watch. And, you know, even Jimmy O'Brien there flagged it, that he's a sharp, brave and confident with the boot. So he's the man to shut down. You do not want to give him space. He's going to want to showcase. He's going to want to put a bit of flair in. He's going to want to make us look like we're the 2019. And I dare even talk about that. But, you know, they want to bring out the 2019 spirit into this. So Ryunosuke Ito, he is going to be an absolute one to watch for sure. Next up there is Warner Darns. He's obviously the captain. Hurricanes lock, who won a Super Rugby well before joining Brave Lupus Tokyo for maybe a little bit of cash there. But, you know, physical line-out operator, very good at carrying. very, very good. Eddie Jones obviously built a side around him returning as leader after Italy win. So yeah, we have a heavily rotated pack. We're going to want to make sure we dominate, and he is one to absolutely put down first. You can't let him get space. Next up there, and finally for Japan there, you have Michael Leach, and he's probably one of the most capped players there. He's 92 caps off the bench, and fantastic there for the Brave Blossoms. Toshiba Brave, Lupus Tokyo, he's the back row there. Heartbeat of the squad, even at the ripe age of 37, mind you. Not old at all, but in terms of rugby, it is a little bit. But look, he's obviously been saved for the second half, but he has the experience and the leadership to come off that bench and absolutely rip it up. So, he's faced Aaron loads of times. He knows us. He knows our game. And he's one to watch. He is one to watch. We have to make sure that when he comes in, probably around the 60th minute, that we lock him down as well. He is going to make things happen. But let's go back here to the Irish team. And, we've a couple of, obviously, debutants there. All of them have had fantastic seasons, really proved themselves why they're even here. But one of them I have to talk about, and he's getting his first place in that starting 15, is Sean Jansen. He's the Connacht number 8. He's in fine form. Connacht had an absolute savage season, and he has been the heart of it. So delighted to see that he gets that. He obviously starts ahead of Bryn Ward there, but he's going to get his debut off the bench. Sean Jansen's going to play the full 80 minutes. And he probably can, but if you have the likes of Bryn Ward there on the bench, why would you? Because he had another fantastic game. But look, I think it's great. Farrell's putting in a bit of squad depth there. A very big run out before the Eden Park one, and that is the big game, really. That's the one we're all looking forward to. And not to say that Japan isn't one we're looking forward to. We love rugby. That's why we're watching them. But realistically, all eyes are looking over the horizon here to that New Zealand game. But look, Sean Jansen has a huge chance to impress there. If he proves himself today, doesn't pick up any injuries, he could be in contention to even be on the bench, maybe even starting against New Zealand. So very exciting time for him. Obviously moving over there to Tadhg Beirne, captain for the first time at test level. Sheehan obviously rotated, so that's always going to happen. But he returns from the calf injury to rule him out from the Australia game, so it's good that he's there. He's going to lead the pack there. He's Munster's Mr. Versatile, I suppose, if you want to call him. He can play loads of different ones. But, he's going to set the tone there. And I really do appreciate Tadhg Beirne. Obviously, all of us here are watching Ireland play, many a game. And he's always had this air of authority with him and an air of confidence. And, he really rallies the troops there. So great for Tadhg Beirne to be on that. And he's a fantastic player as well. Jesus, he's like the Jackal King. So I'm happy enough to have him as a skipper. And then last but not least, Kieran Frawley, starting at 10, that's a huge thing. Prendergast obviously being rested ahead of New Zealand. But, if Frawley comes out now and he plays an absolute blinder, there is going to be a contention for that shirt. It's not set in stone. We are, as I said, still trying to find our international 10. Kieran Frawley obviously making that big move to Connacht to try and, settle that debate, really. Get out of the shadow that he's been in for that 10 shirt in Leinster for a long time. So this is his avenue. This is his platform. He needs to put a very good foundation into it. And if he has a good game, it's going to be crazy. The one thing he's going to have on his shoulder is that little Harry Byrne sitting up there in the stands who is ready to come off that bench whenever he is needed. And Harry Byrne also is in the same boat. He wants to prove himself. So, look, I think pressurised fixture, one, he can probably have a little bit of, space for himself. We're not expecting to probably lose this one. He's going in with the confidence of the team around him. And Andy Farrell obviously put the confidence in to start him on the 15. So, look, I'm really hoping Kieran Frawley does wonders here. Obviously, we miss him that he's going to Connacht. It still breaks my heart. So, yeah, one to watch. I think Kieran Frawley's going to come out there and make moves. Previous games there, look, the last meeting was in the 8th of November in 2025. We absolutely walloped them. It was Ireland 41, Japan 10, and that was in the Viva Stadium. Not a fantastic day for the Japanese. 6 tries for Ireland. Kind of a routine autumn win. It's one of the ones that we actually had lost to New Zealand, so it was kind of one of those ones that if you're a Japanese player, you're like, oh Christ. You would have preferred if we had beaten the All Blacks to come out and play that game, because we just went out and took every bit of anger out on them. It was a great game for us to watch. Obviously, it was a flurry of tries, loads of set pieces, loads of really good runs. But I don't think we're going to repeat that. I don't think it's going to be an absolute, slaughter of the Japanese. The time before that, obviously, was July 2021, again, Ireland beat them 39-31. That was also maybe a little bit of tight with patches, but I think Ireland they reshuffled their bench, and then the Japanese came back a good bit. And then the last time before that, and I dare bring it up even again, the second time in this episode, was the Rugby World Cup in 2019. And Jesus, we all remember that, don't we? Jeez, yeah. Japan beating us 19-12 in Shizuoka. Oh, jeez. Even think of it now. I bought the international jerseys. I still have it up. I actually just wore it the other day. It's the World Cup Japan one. And every time I take it out of the wardrobe, I'm like, oh God, I should actually burn this. It was one of the biggest shocks. But look, obviously, going previous results, it can tell you a story, but every year you're going to have something different. We have 11 wins. Japan have won across 12 tests since 1996. Realistically, we're probably going to beat them by a good margin, but we have a very heavily rotated team, so you don't know. Anything could happen. They're coming off a very good win against Italy, so they're in high spirits. Eddie Jones obviously is building them a confidence at the moment, and I'm not a huge fan of Eddie Jones, but if they were to come out and even get close to us now, I'd be kicking myself. But anyway, let's kind of talk about a little bit more about Japan and how they might actually beat us. And it's a little thing which is funny, because Eddie Jones obviously is a very funny man, right? And obviously getting banned for 4 games there for abusing officials. Not a laughing matter. I'm just laughing because of the person that he is. It's just expected. And no offense, Eddie Jones, is my personal opinion now. But the one thing I will say is that when he goes into a squad, he is able to make moves. He's able to get under their skin and show exactly why he's the coach for them. And the one piece I want to talk about here is that their offensive weapon, their offensive style is something else. And I think it's probably not going to suit us that we have this, this blitz defense. I don't know, the rush defense. I don't know if it's actually going to help us here. Because with the rush defense, you kind of hope to have that, that predictable set plays, and you can rush them in those set plays. Japan don't do that, right? They don't do that. They have this kind of, if it was kind of if you want to call it a rush defense for us, they have rush offense. And it's funny because Eddie Jones actually has donned the chosoku, which actually means super fast in Japanese, but obviously he's donning that chosoku rugby, which is super fast rugby. And you know what? It works. You would have seen it against Italy. Kind of to explain it, what they want to do is they want to retain possession over a long piece of territory, right? And you would have seen it in 2019. It was mildly put there. It's probably why we lost in 2019. It was a form of it, right? But essentially, what you're going to be doing here is you bring the ball up really quickly to that line and you kick it, right? You kick it in behind them. And straight away that obviously disrupts the rush defense, right? Because anyone that shoots up is well ahead of where the ball is. And you would have seen it, when Japan beat us, they had this 1-3-2-2 attack shape, which was obviously the ball player there. You had the 3 forwards, the 2 back rows, and then 2 obviously wingers there. And that has worked very good for them for a long time. Even the 42 there, they described Japan's attack as forcing Ireland to stretch, chase, and fatally hover on the advantage line rather than blitz through it. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. This free-moving, fast-paced game plan is going to be absolutely savage, right? We have fallen into the trap of not having a plan B. If we do not have a plan B for that, I think the rush defence is going to be going against us. As well as that, the other advantage they have of this chosoku rugby is that we have a heavily rotated team that hasn't really played with each other too much. So the rush defence might be something that they have to just retain because it's just something that they've been practicing since they've moved over there. And now, obviously, Andy Farrell will have known this. If I'm reading this out to you, he obviously knows this. So I'd imagine he does have a plan B. But it can go against us. I could see Japan getting even the first try because it just might catch us off guard a little bit. But a very respectful way to do it. I think we've never really had a good strategy for these fast game plays. One of them that would have done that is Argentina. For some reason, they're our bogey team, right? And they kind of do their own kind of Chosoku rugby because they do those intentional kicks, not ones that go really far. Just those little chip and chases, those little ones that make you turn and face and try to run past the man that's already running past you. So, I think what you might see here is that this ultimate attack strategy of, holding the ball, offloading it very quickly, offloading it to someone who's going to kick it and then run with it. That is a dangerous play for us. It's going to exploit us. It's going to exploit the space. And that super fast rugby mantra is going to be inside their game plan, left, right and centre. So I'd imagine we probably have a counter-attack for that. Well, I hope we do. Obviously, with a much changed team, as I said, it is a little bit wary that maybe we don't have that. But I suppose in a line there, what is the actual threat? So the threat here is you rush up, Japan can kick behind you into space, and you vacated that space. If you sit off, you're gone, because those players are so fast. Like Saito and Ito play very fast and very wide. So if they can get that, we are going to be in trouble now. I think we would have seen something similar in the sense that they weren't kicking it, but the Wallabies were getting out to the wing very quickly. So they were coming from a pod structure of 3 going in. The next pod was 2, drew in all the defenders, and then they threw it out wide really quickly. It's kind of actually how Leinster's attack was working in the latter stages of the season. So that's kind of how the Wallabies did it to us. I think this time it's different, right? Because it's a kick and chase non-stop. Next time person gets the ball, kick and chase. Next time he gets a kick and chase. So my prediction for this game is you're going to see an awful lot of kicks. And like you would have, I suppose, to back this up, I don't think they utilised the Chosoku rugby in the first half against Italy. And Italy are very good for that. I think their defence isn't a rush defence, right? So they kind of do the scramble defence, which works well for those kicks. But I do think what you're going to see here is that the point of attack for them, for Japan, they know that our defence is the rush defence. They're going to play into it. They're going to play into that very rapidly. I don't think they're going to wait to try to do it for the second half. They know our bench is very strong. They know they can't risk falling behind by too many tries. So it's a bit crazy. I think it'll work out for them. It's a very interesting thing. I think it's going to be a very electric game. We're going to have to watch it. You're just going to have to watch it and just see what they do. But I'm expecting a very exciting, lots of kicks. I mean, I'm going to go with the stat that you're going to see twice or maybe 3 times the amount of kicks that Ireland do is going to be from Japan. So there's a little bit extra prediction. Now, I'm not a betting man, but I'll go with it. And actually, speaking of betting, let's actually go into my prediction here. So obviously the foreign coming in here, as I said, a bonus point comeback win over Australia. It's going to keep us up and high. We do have 9 changes with 4 debutants, so that has to be taken into the factor. Obviously, an awful lot of players have been rested for this game next week. But Eddie Jones back from suspension is going to give them a boost as well. Not only talking about their Chosoku rugby being one of their big plays here, and with Eddie Jones there actually at the stadium, he will be able to talk to them even at half time to see if that's working or not, and just go to a plan B. But it is a neutral venue in Newcastle. Is Japan's designated home fixture, but it's played in Australia, so there's no real home advantage here. The odds there in the bookies, Ireland outright are 1-6 on, and Japan are 7-1. So that kind of speaks volumes there. We have a handicap bet at even money at -21, and look, I do think it's probably going to fall somewhere around that. So I know I said we wouldn't beat them 41-10. But I do think we're probably going to beat them 41-17. Man of the match there, I do think it's probably going to be Tadhg Beirne. I would really hope it's Sean Jansen. If he got a man of the match for his debut, it'd be fantastic. But I think Tadhg Beirne he is the man. Blue scrum cap, you see that everywhere, right? And I think he's going to get that little. Are they giving medals for it? Probably giving medals. So I think he's going to get the medal. Alright folks, a really quick discussion point here. Obviously, if you mention rugby league in a rugby union podcast, you're setting yourself up for failure, right? But I just want to talk about 3 things I would like, because I was watching rugby league there, right? I was watching it, right? And I just want to talk about 3 things that I'd kind of like to see a form of anyway inside the rugby union. Now, don't hate me, right? We know we don't watch rugby league. We all think it's sinful, but it's not the sevens now. And I do like the sevens, but I know if I say the sevens now, that's it. You'll unsubscribe. But the rugby league, right? Very fast-paced game, and it is something that the rugby union have tried their hardest really to speed up rugby union. I'm not a fan of speeding up every aspect of it, but what I do like is some of the little extras that they have. Now, the first I'm going to talk about, we already have a form of it. It's the 40-20 kick. So obviously we have the 50-22, fair enough, grand, right? But rugby league have it where if you're inside your own 40-metre line and you kick and it bounces into the opponent's 20, then you get the line out. Now, fair enough, 50-22 works. It looks very good. But why not reward them a little bit extra? Why not do it if bring it out a little bit? The 40-22 is the next step for territory games. I think we need to do that and make it a little bit more competitive there. The other option there obviously was if you kicked it, that's actually the South African one. I was talking about that before. Whereas if you can actually do, you're not inside your own half, or so you don't have to go, if you go back, Jesus, let me try that again. The other one obviously that you would have seen in the Super Rugby League that they're trying to introduce is probably the better form of this. I would prefer that over the 40-20 kick, but it's the one where you can go back inside your own 50 and then kick it to the 22, and then you don't actually lose that 50-22 from that, because the rule is if you walk your own ball back into the 50, you've walked it back, you don't get rewarded the line out. So I kind of, maybe a mixture of that, I think it would improve the kick and reward accurate touch finders, which we are kind of losing at the moment. A lot of people kicking out to touch, kicking out in the full as well. So, you want to reward that deep opposition kicking deep into the opposition half. So, yeah, I think that would be fantastic if they brought that in. Another thing, though, I do think we should bring in is the sin bin for professional fouls, right? It's not as big as a yellow card, right? Yellow card obviously is 10 minutes. It's huge. In rugby league, they do the 8-minute sin bin. I do think that's a little bit too long. What's the difference between an 8 and a 10? Just give me a yellow card, right? But this is just like if you do a professional foul, which is kind of a cynical foul, right? You would have seen something similar in the GA with like a black card, except a black card is a little bit too heavy. But if it was a cynical foul, what you could do is you could give them a 5-minute sin bin for it. It's not a yellow card infringement. It doesn't need to be a bunker decision. You just say, right, that was an infringement. You did it intentionally to ensure that there wasn't a try or something like that. Maybe not the try, because that would be a penalty try, but something that's just a little bit of arson around, like those fights that happen. I love them now, but what you could do is you could send them for a 5-minute sin bin rather than the 10 yellow card, because I think an awful lot has to happen before a referee's going to put his hand in his pocket and say you're off, right? And generally it's like a team yellow card where there's multiple infringements and then they come around with it. I do think if we brought that in, it obviously would reduce an awful lot more cynical fouls. You'll see like these, what you call the dark arts, even, where you see these like frowned upon movements that you just know are bad, and it results in either a scrum or a penalty. But you have to kind of go with the extra mile there and say, no, you've done that cynically, you're gone for 5 minutes, off you go, you can come back in 5 minutes time. It's not replacing the yellow card, it's not replacing the red card, but it would actually let the game flow an awful lot more and avoid these moments where teams obviously are going to go crazy about them and they're up at the ref saying, ref, come on, there has to be a yellow card, and they don't give it, and then you have all the fans in the crowd going, how is that not a yellow card? But yellow cards are deep. They obviously weight an awful lot more. If you have a little sin bin for professional fouls, happy out. No one's going to care. Everyone's going to be like, yeah, fair enough, that actually makes sense, that player deserved to go for 5 minutes. And then the next time he does it, give him a yellow card, no problem. That's how the hierarchy of that goes. And then last but not least, this might be the most controversial one, right? But the limited interchange bench. I think this is brilliant, right? In the NRL there, it has 4 interchange players on the bench. So you actually have 13 players who play the full 80 minutes. They used to have this years and years and years ago. I actually think it's the right way to do it. I think this whole thing of like, you would have seen it in the last World Cup. Oh, the South African bomb squad are coming on. It changes the game, right? Because you can, if you are a team that's fortunate to have a very strong bench, you're essentially playing 2 teams. Do you know? And you often see games swinging entirely into those last 25 minutes because the level of players they're bringing on off the bench just changes the game entirely. So I would actually really like if there wasn't this constant full team swap out. Those 16 to 23, that's a huge number, right? It's a huge number. I don't think you need that many. I think if you rolled it back to that, the way that league do, or maybe league it doesn't really work out because obviously the scrums, well, obviously they'll lack an awful lot. But you could probably focus on maybe only having 3 replacements for the forwards and then 1 back, and that has to be a dynamic back then, because you're going to have someone that's going to do, scrum half, Nathan Tadhg, mind you, scrum half, fly half, or a utility back somewhere. So yeah, look, let me know what you think. Is it sacrilege? Should I never talk about rugby league again? Should I never even mention sevens for the second time now? But let me know what you think. I think those would actually really improve the union. They're not overly crazy. Like, there obviously is more there, like the golden point and the extra time, or you have like the shot clock for set pieces, which I just think that's atrocious. Like, we have proper scrums. You can't have a set piece. You can't have a shot clock for that. There's more there that are more controversial. I think the ones I've probably brought up, they're not crazy. I think they'll actually have a bit of fun with them. But anyway, let me know what you think, or if you think I should shut up and stick to what I know and just tell you who the lineups are. 100% on that as well. Alright, that is her, folks. If you haven't already, please follow us on social media. If you're watching this on YouTube, I have actually changed the cover arts now, so you can actually get at a glance information of what type of episode this is. The blue one denotes the preview, and the maroon denotes the review, so it's a little bit easier to identify from the large list of all these episodes. And I say large list because I'm already on episode 62, and it's been a fantastic journey, and I've met and talked to an awful lot of people who share the same interests as me, and you're listening every week. So just another comment there to say thanks so much for listening. You're playing a blinder. You're making me feel like I actually know things. So that's always a good thing. And look, hopefully you're enjoying this, and I'm enjoying actually having these sessions, talking into a microphone in the kitchen on my own. But I'm talking to you through the media. So it's fantastic, and I do appreciate everyone, and we'll do something special for the 100th episode, sure, won't we? It's not that far away. But anyway, folks, as always, thanks for listening.